strategist and former president of the Women's Media Center. So welcome to both of you. Jehmu, you say that it's a hunting season on young black males, but who are the hunters?
Well, unfortunately, many of the hunters have been other young black males. If you look at the history of lynching in this country, somewhere around 5,000 blacks were lynched in a 100-year period. In my lifetime, and I'm not that young, but I'm relatively young, 262,000 African Americans have been killed by other African Americans. We don't hear the type of outrage, we don't see the type of organizing resources, we don't have the attention on this level of crime that we do when many young kids are killed in Connecticut, when someone who was attached to the inauguration is unfortunately killed. And it's not just civil rights leaders or the civil rights industry. This is all of us. This is an American problem. I disagree with Bill O'Reilly when he only wants to hold the black community accountable for this. He is accountable. You are accountable. The president, as the first black president, is accountable, but every white president is accountable in the same way. And we have to start giving as much attention to this as we do to some of the more unfortunate racial tension issues.
I didn't think that you would be agreeing with O'Reilly, but essentially you are, that black on black crime is by far the more serious issue.
Well, I disagree with him that it is the responsibility of these civil rights leaders and where have they been and why have they been silent. I would turn to O'Reilly and say, why have you been silent? Why is it that these men are the only ones who should care about it? And that type of just not having accountability, blacks can't be only responsible for blacks. This is an American problem. So there is some
Larry, do you want to comment? Larry, do you believe that Reverend Sharpton and Jackson are race baiters?
Well, of course I believe they're race baiters, but I want to get to the point of our conversation here, and your guest is absolutely right, and I'm happy we're finding some common ground here. The issue is the breakdown of the black family. 7,000 homicides last year, Geraldo, that's half of the total, and they were committed primarily by young black people killing other black people. And you look at the population of black people in America, you're talking about 12%. Throw out the women, because the women aren't killing people. Throw out old people and young people. You're talking about out of 3% of the population come almost 50% of the homicides. This is why people profile. So now let's get to the other question, and that is why. And the answer is bad government social policy and bad fiscal policy. Social policy is this. In 1965, Lyndon Johnson launches the ill-advised but well-intentioned war on poverty. $16 trillion later, the percentage of black kids born outside of wedlock has tripled. And now about 85% of black kids at some point will be in a house without a dad. There's a direct relationship between that and you name your social ill, whether it's crime, dropouts, unemployment, or going to prison. All of that is directly related to not having the values from a strong nuclear family.
But Larry, here's the I got that. I totally get that, and I agree with you, obviously.
One more quick point, though, Geraldo,
okay.
Because a lot of people dismiss everything I say because I'm a conservative. You cite conservative stats from the Heritage Foundation, AEI, arithmetic, people's eyes glaze over. I'm quoting that well-known neocon Tupac Shakur, who said, I know for a fact if I had had a father, I would have had some discipline and I would have been more confident. End of quote.
But you're not saying that the upset over Trayvon's death is irrelevant or insignificant. I mean, he was an unarmed kid killed on his way home from the 7-Eleven.
It was a tragedy, but it's also a misdirection to suggest that somehow black people need to be feared being tracked down by a non-black person. One more time, the stats are that 95% of the homicides are committed by other black people. When there are these violent interracial crimes between blacks and whites, 90% to 80% of the time, it is a black perpetrator and a white victim. Very rarely is it the other way around, which is why the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman thing was such an aberration.
Okay, but Larry, this is where I'm going to have to diverge a little bit, because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to acknowledge the racial inequality in this country that has led to conditions that create this type of crime situation in Chicago. We also have to acknowledge the criminal justice system and the bias, the racial and ethnic bias that exists within the criminal justice system. Geraldo, 2004, the American Bar Association did a complete study and came up with very specific recommendations on what this country needed to do to deal with racial and ethnic bias in our criminal justice system. States have not even acknowledged it. The federal government, our Department of Justice, has not looked at this, has not implemented these pieces. That exists. So we have to also focus on that, the issues that led to Trayvon Martin
and
the black on black crime.
I got you. We'll take a break. We'll be back.